Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. In the previous video, I focused on using a ball to motivate your dog to learn something new or to help you just kind of enhance an old command, because it's all about motivation. Anytime you're about to embark upon training or you're going to ask your dog to do something, you need to ask yourself two questions. One, what is it that you want me to do? And number two, why would I do it? So again, in the previous video, I talked about using a ball to motivate your dog. In today's video, I want to focus on using treats. Now, what do I use when I train my dogs? Well, I use a ball, as you found out in the previous video, but I also use treats. I use a ball anytime I want fast action, really fast action. I want to make something much faster, sharper, just slick. Just think of the word slick. You just want it to be really intense. But when it comes to methodical, maybe the dog needs to slow down a little bit. Maybe she's not picking up this new thing you're trying to teach. Maybe your dog is getting a bit out of control. As you saw in the previous video, they can get out of control when using a ball. So you just want to slow things down a bit. That's when the treats come in really handy, especially for behaviors like maybe a slow-paced heel, but really for behaviors like place, stay, down. I love to use treats for those, and I can introduce a ball later once the dog understands how to do those behaviors. So first things first, let's talk about, if you're going to use treats, a couple things that I recommend. Number one, make sure your dog's not allergic. There's no sort of food allergies when it comes to using a particular type of treat. Make sure, for example, the treats I love to use are poultry-based. And a lot of dogs have allergies when it comes to using poultry. Also, you have to make sure that they like it, that they actually like the treat. Right here with Castell, she loves it. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. There's nothing like cheese. I tell you what, around my household, they even hear that sound, that's it. I have their full attention. But that brings me to the other part about treats. Not only do dogs have to like it, not only do they have to have no food allergies, but they also have to be able to ingest it quickly, which they can with the cheese. The biggest hang up with cheese is you don't want to give your dog too much of it because they can be lactose intolerant, but also handling the treats. So therefore, the treats that I use when I train is a frozen dog food known as Biljack. Now, the dog food's not raw, it's just simply fresh. So when you get it, it's frozen and you have to thaw it out. And I love it because it comes in these little nuggets here. And you can squeeze them, kind of like Play-Doh, about the consistency of Play-Doh. And the dogs love it. It's very nutritious, and it's down the hatch, and you're ready to move on to the next behavior. There's nothing worse. I get it. You know, she loves a good dog biscuit. But when I give her a dog biscuit, it's crunch, 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 more crunch, and you're thinking, enough already. Really? I'm trying to get in a 20-minute training session here, and we're not going to get but 2 behaviors done because you keep crunching on that dog biscuit. And not only to mention that, but you also get crumbs all over the floor. So, of course, what does your dog want to do? Become a vacuum cleaner. Oh, yeah, Bryan, I'll be with you in a second as soon as I clean up the floor, spill on aisle 9. So, again, dog biscuits are fine, but when it comes to training, they have to be easily ingestible, easy to handle, and something that your dog really digs. Okay, so now moving on from there, if you're going to use those type of treats in training, you also need to have the ability to carry them on you in a way that you have your hands free. So you can handle your dog, so you can step right, pull the dog, reel in that leash. You don't want to be holding on to the treats in your hand. You want to be able to have access to them quickly, but nevertheless, I want my hands free. That's why I use a certain type of treat pouch. I love it. Again, I'm not sponsored by these people. I'm just telling you what I use, what happens to work best for Bryan when he's training dogs. And this is called an Ollie Dog treat bag. It's just hanging off my hip here. And here's the things I like about it. One, it's got a belt. It's on a belt right here. which means I have long arms for my given proportions. I just do. And so I sling it low, so I'm not having to reach up here on my hip every time I want to give the dog a treat. Every time I want to give the dog a treat. This slows down the process. The treat bag kind of gets lost up here on my hip. Instead, I can sling it low like a gun fighter. There you go. I'm ready to draw that treat in the blink of an eye. So anyway, I love being able to sling it low. Also, the fact that it has a magnetic closure. You can just close it with a magnet. There you go. So you're not having to work a zipper. It has a little carabiner that you can hang on your belt, or you can hang it on a belt loop. I just recommend using the belt that comes with it. But no matter what it is that you use, make sure you can get into it quickly, give the dog the reward, shut it so that when you bend over for a down, bend over to pet, it doesn't spill out. You can adjust it to the front for when you're working on come. If you're trying to train the dog on the right side, you can sling it over here to the left side. And now the dog is over here, treats are over here. I always have the treats on the opposite side of the dog if I'm doing any sort of healing. If I'm doing come when called, I park it in front because I want the dog to be right here when I call the dog in front. You don't always have to do that. Just, again, pick a side for the most part. I just don't like to have the treat bag on the same side that I'm healing the dog. It can become problematic. It doesn't take them long to figure out what that is. And now instead of trying to learn what it is you're trying to teach, all they focus on is the treat bag. So again, you don't want that happening. Okay, so now a couple other things when it comes to using treats in your training, just like the ball. Number one, you're going to need to keep your sessions short. So no 30-minute, 45-minute training sessions, because why? Every time you give your dog a treat, it wants a treat less than the previous one that you just gave. They drop out of drive. Let me use the example I've used for years. Let's say you're really thirsty. You're really thirsty. So your dog really wants that treat, really wants it. And I give you a teaspoon of water. Does that quench your thirst? More likely it doesn't. But what if I give you 20 of those? Now you're starting to feel pretty good. In other words, your need or your desire for the water dissipates with every teaspoon I give you. Every time I give Castell a treat or any dog I'm training, they start to drop out of drive. And I personally don't allow dogs to work under what I call 75% drive. If they do, that starts becoming a habit. And I just don't like dogs to work sloppily, lazily around me. I just don't like it. I want them to have energy when I'm training them. Okay, the other thing that you need to do is make sure that your timing of the treat is perfect. Make sure you give the treat only when the dog has done the behavior exactly the way that you want it during that given session. Again, keeping things simple in the beginning. They don't need to be super good at what they're doing. You just need to say, hey, that was close enough. Close enough, here comes a treat. But you want to give the treat as close to them doing the desired behavior as possible. You don't want to tell, for instance, a dog to hop on a play Scott and then go fish a treat out of the refrigerator and then bring it over and give it to the dog, because that timing interval is too long between the treat being given after the behavior that the dog has done previously. The dog won't associate the two together. They may say, that's a really cool treat. I really appreciate you getting that for me, but what does it have to do with me getting on the play Scott? So again, just like the ball, as you saw in the previous video, it has to be given, it has to be presented with proper, really, really good timing. Okay, and then the other thing that you need to think about anytime that you're using a treat is that you're going to do more luring with a treat than you do with a ball. The ball was up here on my chest with a magnet. With a treat, the ball is easy to be seen. It's big, it's round, pretty obvious hanging off of dear old Bryan up there. The treat in my hand, not so obvious. Not so obvious. So they start to learn the presentation of a treat, but not as obvious. In the beginning, you want it obvious. Later on, we hide the treat bag. Maybe we put treats in our pocket. Maybe we only give a treat every now and then. But in the beginning, you want this thing as obvious as possible. Hey, I'm going to give you a treat if you do a certain behavior a certain way. You're going to get it. Okay, and then keep in mind too, that I don't care how much your dog loves a treat, it's not going to be the same intensity and the same focus as a dog who has a super high ball drive or toy drive. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate that by a video that I shot just a few days ago. Evan, who's filming today, filmed that video, and it shows me working Castell. And one of the things that you're going to see in that video is she just doesn't have the same focus as what you saw in the previous video in comparison to the ball. So we're going to go ahead and roll that video now. Okay, so as you see here, I'm giving her a treat, kind of priming the carburetor there. I fish out another treat, give her the command heel, and there she goes. But look at her. That's not the same as with the ball. She wanders off. She's not paying as much attention. Whereas you saw in the other video, man, she was spot on, watching me the whole time. Now she's checking out some spot on the ground, and I have to lure her over to the heel, give her a little bit of a leash input, and make her work her way back over. Now also notice, where is the treat? Notice it's right by my leg because I'm working on heel. I want the dog to come to the heel position to get the treat. Now in this behavior, that was come. So now I want the dog to come to a sitting position right in front of me, and when she does so, she'll get the treat. And there we go again, and we're off onto another heel. And again, I'm presenting the treat with my right hand right by the leg. Okay, if you guys do that, that's how you're going to have to do it, and just kind of accept that. If you've got a dog that's got super high ball drive, don't get upset if your dog doesn't have the same focus, the same attention with treats, and vice versa. You know, in case you happen to have that dog who, man, I just love the treats, I could care less about the ball, then again, just take that into account. It's all about just doing anything that we can to motivate the dog to do what we need them to do, to learn what we want them to learn, and to have really as much fun, as much incentive doing it as possible. Okay, now I'm going to show you a real demonstration with her. So this is Castell here again, little puppy that I have. I'm going to give her the command, place, and I toss the treat right on the cot. Now with this, because I'm using a treat, I slow everything down. And even the behavior itself calls for that. Once you get on the cot, remain on the cot until I release you. The treats, be careful, because in the beginning, you don't want big mistakes. You want to hand the treat back to the dog. The initial treat was tossed on the cot so that the dog would associate getting on the cot with the treat. But then after that, everything's associated with me. And she does her behavior well. And then at this point here, I can get her back off the place cot, free, and off we go. And I even give a treat for free. A lot of people say, why? It's getting off of this cot when I tell you to the proper way is every bit as important as getting on it. But the biggest emphasis I want to make is that when you use a treat, things just slow down, and you should slow down. Heel. Good. And if she drops it, my advice to you, let them have it. Go ahead and let them fish that treat up off the ground. Otherwise, that is something that you don't want to deal with in the beginning of training. Later on, again, once she has a good understanding of all these commands, I'll drop treats on purpose. Absolutely. I'm out on a nice walk with my dogs. They come across a gum wrapper. They come across anything that may resemble a treat. No, leave it alone. But not right now with young dogs, new dogs, puppies. No. If it hits that ground, they fumble the handoff, let them have it. Okay, just take that advice from me. Place. Again, I toss it onto the cot. And once the dog's up on the cot and it takes the treat, another thing that you want to do, before you give a subsequent command, stay, to leave the dog, notice I waited until she finished chewing the treat, till it's swallowed. Because up until that point, that's all she's thinking about right now is chewing on the treat, eating the treat. She's not focused on anything that I need her to do. Okay, now I'm going to get her off the cot, return back, free. Good girl. Come. Very good. Good girl. And again, notice I can pull it up. I can pull the treat upward. By pulling the treat upward, I'm bringing her head up. Kind of like yesterday when I had the ball on my chest with the magnet. It was up here. Again, pulling the dog's head up. Very good. Make sure that they take that hand off. And if anything spills, let them have it in the beginning. Just do your best not to spill. That's why I like these treats here. She's a little fumbly right now. She's getting all of her new teeth in. So working her mouth, she's not a super expert at it. Just give them time like you see right there. Even though it's well in her mouth, she still fumbled the hand off. That's because her mouth is really sensitive with the treats. Place. Atta girl. Now she's gotten to a point where I don't really have to use a treat to get her up on the place cot. But again, I'm not going to say stay until she's finished with the treat. Stay. And again, because that's a big mistake that other people make. Okay, so just wrapping it up. Treats slow everything down. You need to slow it down. You're going to fumble the handoff. They need time to chew the treats. Keep your lessons short. Keep them intense, but only intense in doing everything that you can to draw the dog's attention. Look at me. I'm the one that has the treats, not the ground. It's me. Yes, the cot has them occasionally, but as soon as you pick up what place means, then I'm not going to put the treat on the cot anymore. It comes from me. Working for me is how you get the treats. Use something that your dog likes. Make sure that you can handle it with ease, even if they can't. Make sure it's good for them, and make sure that you only do about 25 to 30 repetitions. So that meaning that's about 25 to 30 treats. Later down the road, I'll demonstrate how we phase out the treats. I phase out the ball, I phase out the treats. Eventually, you have to do the behavior because I told you to do it. I hope you do it with high spirit. I hope you think I always have treats on me, because sometimes I may. And I hope you always think I have a ball on me, like Captain thinks. And therefore, you'll keep a high-spirited animal, always kind of guessing. And that's a pretty good thing. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Reach out to me, Bryan with a Y at tamingthewild.com. Other than that, go grab your treats and get busy training. Atta girl. Good girl. How you handled that one, well. Good job. If you enjoy my videos, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with some friends.